All right. Everybody, welcome. My name is Jesse Randall, and I'm the CEO of Sweater. And our objective is to open up the venture capital asset class to the public. But while we're going through the SEC process, which is long and arduous, we decided to create our own little raw story as we go through our path. And we created Founder Saga. And we're very passionate about entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs be successful. And it's my belief that one of the best ways to do that is through telling the stories of founders who have made it through the gauntlet and come out the other side. Of course, the gauntlet never really ends, as I'm sure these two are going to tell us today. But having made it through the earliest stages is really where we focus this whole effort on. And we're excited to have Johnny and Mike here from Homey to tell us about the Homey story and how you guys have gotten to the point that you're at today. So, guys, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you guys here for sure. So with the three of us on here, we're gonna have fun taking turns. So I think just start talking, and you guys can toss the ball back and forth as we get into these questions. But first, let's start with making sure everybody knows who Homey is, and kind of the market you serve, your purpose, and then let's whatever kind of metrics or insight you want to provide to kind of give people a feel for where you're at, whatever you're comfortable sharing would be great. So why don't we go ahead and start with that? Who wants to give the quick Homey pitch?
I think that's Hustle. He tells it best. I always like hearing it every time from him. So
I was going to say the same thing about you, man. I love the way you share it. So yeah, okay, let me give this my best attempt. So I'll start with a mission first, because I think that's important for people to know. And our mission is to make homeownership easy, affordable, and accessible to all. Especially now with huge disparities and inequality. I think now more than ever, it's a really wonderful mission to get behind. We're a tech-enabled broker. We're a one-stop shop. We help people buy and sell homes for a flat fee. We're trying to do our best to compress the commissions, not just on the real estate piece, but also on the lending side. We have a $500 price guarantee on the best interest rate, which is very meaningful savings for a lot of people. And then title and escrow, and then home insurance. We're going to launch our Homey Home Services Marketplace. And we're now in 4 markets. We'll be in 5 markets in the beginning of the year. So we'll be in Idaho, in Nevada, in Arizona, Utah, and Colorado.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw your billboard yesterday as I was driving up to the ski slopes.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Colorado's my home state, so it's nice to have officially launched.
That's good. So Johnny, maybe you can pick up and kind of tell everybody where Homey's at. I mean, is there anything else you'd like to share about your reach or the impact that you're having in the market?
Yeah, I just my add to what Mike was sharing was just about how awesome our team is. Like, I love being a Homey. We have so many real estate agents who have switched away from being traditional agents and have joined our cause. They see the disruption occurring. They see the rules that exist in our associations as being, burdensome and not beneficial to consumers. So we're getting a lot of people, a lot of us have real estate friends out there, and we're getting a lot of recommendations, and the people that are coming and joining our team just make it what it is today. So we just have a great culture, great company, amazing people. And, as Mike was sharing, that savings is absolutely meaningful. And yeah, it's been a blast to take on such an old, archaic industry and do it as a fellow Homey. It's been great.
That's awesome. So let's why don't we jump back in time and go back to the napkin moment, is what we like to call it. So, I mean, let's first of all give us some context for how long ago that was, and really where did this idea come from? And I mean, it's ambitious. I mean, this industry might be archaic, but it's big, and there are entrenched, I guess, traditions and processes everywhere. I mean, this was not a small task to take on. So whose idea was it? Were you guys together, or what's the story there?
Yeah, can I take this one, Mike? Are you good with that? So I might embellish a little bit, so he might have to follow me up. But I was leaving my old company in Trot. I was real estate software for apartment communities, and on my last day, I had this guy who set up an appointment, and he met with me, and he was passionate, and he was banging the table and saying, this industry has to change, and have you ever bought or sold a home? And I said, yeah. And he's like, how much did you pay? You know, and I said, tens of thousands of dollars. He's like, right. It's unnecessary. And he was about jumping on the table. And I, you know, it was really, you know, I could feel the energy and the passion, you know, and I'm like, this guy's awesome. And this is Mike, who you're looking at here in the Utah Jazz hat. So on my last day of work, I didn't know what I was going to do. This was my old company. I just felt like it was time to move on and do something new. But his passion, you know, in helping me relive my old real estate transactions experience, like, you know, we're a couple guys who've bought and sold homes before. You know, we neither of us had been realtors, but we just felt like the process was absolutely broken. And then he's like, what do you think about the name Homie? I'm thinking the name of the company Homie. I'm like, dude, that's the greatest name on earth. No better name for helping people buy and sell homes than Homie. You know, I'm like, this is great. I'm a homie. I could tell he was with the passion that he had. But I wasn't, you know, quite ready to just jump into another venture. I had built that other company for 12 years. But we call Mike Hustle is his nickname. And Mike was just hustling, calling me every night, being like, hey, are you ready to go yet? Are we ready to do this? You know, and it was awesome. You know, I loved that passion. I still love that passion. That's one of his greatest strengths. So yeah, that's kind of how we got started. But I know this idea had been brewing in Mike's mind for quite a while. And I don't know, I'll let you maybe tell a little bit more of the origin there if you want to do that.
Mike, I think I might just have to ask you to jump up on the table real quick, or, you know, bang your fist down or something. I got to see this.
It'll happen. It'll eventually happen, and hopefully not too loud. Yeah. So it was a fun moment chatting with Johnny, man. I walk into Entrada's building and I see this huge 40-foot banner, and it was his last day on January 31st of 2015. And it said the big deal is leaving. It's a big picture of him. I walk into the lobby. I'm like, holy crap, this guy is a big deal. You know, he's co-founder and president of a, you know, arguably $1 billion business in the real estate software space. So I felt like I was pitching a pretty big and important person in Utah. I had heard some wonderful things about him as I started kind of hearing his name around the valley. And, you know, everyone always asked, why are you asking, Mike? Is he hiring? Is he hiring? Right. And it was just super obvious that people gravitated towards him. So from my side of the table, the Genesis story starts in 2008 for me. I was living in Las Vegas. I was studying architecture, waiting tables, putting myself through college. Sounds pretty normal. But the abnormal part is around 2004, 2005, I realized that half my wait staff started getting their real estate license and the other half started getting their mortgage license. And as you may know, or may not know, the barrier to entry is just really low. All right, it's 14 days later, you get your license. And there's a lot of good real estate agents out there and also really good loan officers out there. That goes without saying, but I'll emphasize that. And then we started buying homes 2 at a time, stated income, no money down, 1 year, 2 year ARMs, which was the most irresponsible thing to do. And not only did we do it once, every 6 months we would do it again. Cash out a HELOC, you know, cash out 20 grand or so after fees, and then double down and did it again, and did it again. And then 6 months later, we did it again. So at the beginning of 2008, had a healthy single family rental portfolio. You know, homes were renting. I was living every 2 years. I'd move into a bigger house and bigger house and bigger house. And then 2008 came, and then it went, and I was left with the bag. You know, Las Vegas got hit really hard. People were unemployed. People stopped paying their rent. I was subsidizing thousands of dollars in mortgage payments. I just couldn't do it anymore. You know, half the portfolio got short sold. The other half was repossessed by banks. Lost everything, moved into my mother's house the day before Thanksgiving with about $200 in my pocket. And then after that happening, woke up with this epiphany. It's like, it's my responsibility to fix the real estate industry. Took out a piece of paper, wrote down what was wrong with it, and kind of started from top down. I think broadly speaking, the real estate industry is just backwards. If you think about the franchise model, it creates these habits, if you will, which go into the broker split, which goes into 1099 versus W-2 employees. The lack of barrier to entry means that anyone can be an agent. There's 2 million licensed real estate agents in the United States. That's a lot, and that's frankly too many. The average agent does 3 transactions a year, which is which is not professionalized in our opinion, in my opinion. And then the other piece was the fees. 6% to sell your home, 4% to get a loan on average, points in the front, points in the back, things that consumers don't understand. Title and escrow, why do you need title insurance? You have to have it, right? And then homeowners insurance. And then you add your home warranty, your home inspection, your home appraisal. You're looking at almost 15% of fees. And I just felt like that was asinine. So that was, 12 years ago. So, fast forward now, spent a couple years in investment banking, spent a couple years in venture capital here locally in Mercado Partners. And then, again, in 2015 is where this idea started brewing up, and then got the opportunity to pitch Johnny, and the rest, as they say, is history.
That's awesome. The guys over at Mercado are great. That's cool you're able to work with them. Well, definitely solid foundations for you two getting into this. Sounds like a match made in heaven. I don't think we can overestimate, or overemphasize how important founders are. So what a team. I'm impressed with you guys. Besides what you've built, I mean, just the two of you together is really phenomenal.
Yeah, the beauty of our other co-founder, Mike Triunfo, I mean, he worked with Johnny, and he laid down that foundation at Entrada. So the three of us, Mike T, myself, and Johnny, I mean, talk about domain experts, right? So he brings over the CTO qualities.
Yeah. Well, when you're attacking an industry like this, right, you can't go in with a lot of blind spots. So good job. Well, let's get into like how you actually formed this thing. So after you jumped off the table and Johnny said, yeah, I'm in. I mean, what was next? I mean, you guys obviously had a lot to get done. You didn't start with everything you have now. So what was the initial product? What was the process for you guys to get from that idea to actually being in market? Maybe give us the quick high level of like, that moment in time, that napkin. How long was it until you got into market, and what did you focus on in that period of time?
I think the best part of getting going with this napkin, it was a PowerPoint. I remember, I think we were at a Thanksgiving Point, the golf course, just in the lobby. Mike, I don't think you and I have talked about this, but that was the first time you and I were riffing on a little PowerPoint to pitch investors. And so we took that, and I think the first trip out to San Francisco, we got an $8 million offer on our business, off of a PowerPoint with just nothing to show, so it was pretty awesome. And I think we were, we were like, holy crap, we're onto something. And what's funny is, backing up a little bit, when Mike pitched me on this idea, like, he wanted to keep it so private. He called it Grand Slam. Like, he didn't want it to get out. He was just like, Project Grand Slam. So all of our executive meetings are actually called, after that, they're all Grand Slam meetings that we have at the company. But it's a Grand Slam idea in the real estate industry. And it clearly was when we went out to Silicon Valley. But it was just so easy. We were like, oh, wow, well, we're really onto something. Maybe we got to hold out. And then, so we didn't take that offer, and we kept looking at a bunch of other VCs, and then it ended up taking a really long time to get another offer. So, that was a good learning experience. We probably should have taken that one and ran with it, but it took, several months to really, get a few of our friends and family using us, trying us. There's a lot of trust you have to have in letting somebody, sell your home or help you buy a home. Like, it's arguably your largest purchase, your largest sale. So it was slow going at first, for sure. And then, we launched, I think in officially, had our first advertisement out there, I think in like August of 2015. And that was an ad just on social media, that we shared around our own social accounts. So it wasn't like a paid advertisement, I don't think, but we just let people know we're serious. We want to change this industry. We want to save you tens of thousands of dollars. And from there, we've just continued to iterate on the idea and make it better and better for consumers.
So then what was that first product? Was it mostly just a service with reduced fees at first? Was there any technology associated with it? Like, what was that first offering?
Hustle, you want to take
Michael?
Yeah. So the first thing we did is we focused on our beachhead, right, which was the sell side. And we had a website that I remember this as a lot of fun times. And you pushed the button, and then we all got emails. And what it was to open a door. We weren't at the time a licensed real estate broker, so we would just run around. We would install our own signs. That was a little fun trip. So that's what the first product was, right? It was just a website with, you click on something and then it emails someone else, and then you get a reply of something, right? So if someone was interested in either getting a door open to go check out a home, we would do that. Like I remember sometimes on Saturdays being out with my wife and then getting that email and then having to go do something like that. But the first thing we did was focus on the sell side, because we know even to this day, the value proposition is so much cleaner because the seller in a traditional real estate transaction pays for all the fees, right? They pay for the 6%. It comes out of their pocket, but then indirectly to the buy side. And those are nuances we'll probably get into later. So we just focused on that, right? The goal was to sell, more homes faster and for more money, and really go after establishing product market fit there. And, one turn, second turn, iteration after iteration, family, friends, and fools, right? One of the first transactions with my father-in-law property, we would just try to convince anyone to let us do the transaction so that we could get that experience under our belt. And I think the first 10 transactions, we didn't charge anything. But we wanted to know, right? We wanted to understand these things, and we used real estate attorneys to do those transactions. And then we got more momentum, and then we started hiring more product people, engineering people, and then creating this wonderful flow to onboard sellers so that they feel like they're doing it a lot themselves, right? Listing their homes. And then we leverage that piece to create the listings on the MLS, et cetera. And then we added more services, buy-side services, and the lending piece, and the title and escrow piece, and home insurance, soon this homey marketplace of home services. So it's just an evolution, right? You ask the market, the market does a really good job of, kind of slapping you in the face sometimes and saying, that's not what I want something else. Right. And you just have to be humble enough to listen.
Yeah. And in the travels, like we made so many trips to San Francisco to raise money. We became Golden State Warriors fans. So I don't know if Mike's a Jazz fan or a Warriors fan, but every time we were out there, we just thought, we got to do something fun, make it memorable. So one of our first trips, we went to a Warriors, I think it was the Warriors Memphis Grizzlies playoff game, and we got our Warriors shirts. And the reason I remember that so well is because when we came home, it was like one of our first launches of one of our first clients. And, how many homies does it take to install a yard sign? At the beginning, it took 4. So there were 4 of us out there putting in this yard sign, and it was a little wonky, like the post, was tipping a little bit. So Mike cut up his Warriors shirt, and that hurt me so much. But
it still hurts him.
And he wrapped it up around the base so that post could stand straight and level. So, entrepreneurs make big sacrifices. You have to get rid of your playoff, Warrior shirts. So that was
that is a big sacrifice.
It still
awesome.
Hurts, Johnny. I'm sorry, Johnny.
Okay, so part of the timeline I want to pull out here. So you guys started working together in early 2015. Is that right? So when did you get your first outside check? How long did that take? You said it took a while after you got that first offer that you passed on. I mean, how long was that?
Yeah, I think we got that offer in May, and we officially took money from Peak Ventures and an local angel who's amazing, Mike Leventhal, was it August? I think end of August, early September of that year. So a few months later.
September.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, cool. So then as you were, I guess, looking at the product that you guys ended up building, so there was the first product. What would you consider like your MVP? What was the first MVP that was really in market?
I think it's our search process, like just the fact that you could, search for homes. And on our website, like what was really difficult is we weren't integrated to the MLS. So when you went to our website, it was pretty much blank. But we just said, go to Zillow. Like any home that you find, we'll help you buy it. We'll help you buy it. We'll give you a huge refund. And so the website was pretty blank. If you go to Zillow, it just has all these homes listed. And Homey does now. Like Homey has every single home listed on its website. Right. But initially, you would go there and see a map, and users, I think, were used to seeing that volume of homes, and we would have 10 10 total scattered throughout Utah County and Salt Lake County. So it looked a little sparse as an
I mean, that's an interesting thing to overcome. So, I mean, you're giving them this message to go visit Zillow, but really, come buy it through us. I mean, that's tough messaging. Like, I mean, so it's kind of chicken and egg-ish, I guess, if you're trying to solve that
It was
problem.
really tough because Zillow sent us a cease and desist pretty quickly to remove their names from our website. So that made it even more difficult.
Wow. Well, I guess if you get their attention, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess where was the tipping point? You guys are tackling, I mean, you've tackled something tremendously difficult. I mean, of all the markets that I've looked at, I mean, you guys are overcoming some huge barriers here just to gain consumer confidence in what you're doing. So, like, I guess at what point, like what kind of volume, I don't know how you guys would measure it, but at what point did you feel like it tipped over the other side and momentum was in your favor instead of you having to push the rock up the hill? Like, where did you have to get to?
I don't know if I've ever heard Mike's answer on this. I feel like when we got our first billboards.
I knew it. I was going to say, I know exactly what Johnny's going to say.
Yeah. Initially, Mike and I were, teasing each other about like how, like, is this a pride thing? Like, do we just want our name up on a billboard? Is that what we want to do? And we were like, yeah, it is. That's exactly right. But when we got a deal of 3 in a row at the point of the mountain in Utah, which is, for anybody not in Utah, it separates Salt Lake County from Utah County, our 2 most populated areas. So we had 3 billboards in a row that we got a really good deal on. And I think the second we did that, like, our numbers jumped significantly. And so a lot of people, I don't know, I've always questioned billboard marketing, but for us, it has been phenomenal. And to me, I don't know if that was a tipping point in the company. Looking back, I could say that was a big moment. I don't feel like, I don't know if we've ever had a tipping point, but yeah, what do you think, Mike? And any different thought on that?
Yeah, I think 2019 was a breakout year for us, and that's 4 years after we founded the business, right? We launched the product in about March of 2016, and I think in the summer of 2016, I could see it in my mind's eye. A little bit before June is when we had the billboards, and then that in June our listings just doubled, and they just started growing. So I think that really was, one of the tipping points for sure. That we had struck a positive chord with consumers, and that message of sell your home and save $10,000, which, by the way, is life-changing for a bunch of people. And one of the things we measure our success from is the money we've saved for consumers, and it's approaching $90 million. I mean, that's a ton of money. And I think that's when we realized that, hey, we can acquire customers, that if we do something, then something else will pop out the other end. And the billboard, it was totally a prideful thing. Like, we want a billboard because we want a billboard, but it worked, and it continues to work outside of Utah, which I think was great. But but as we were growing, and then we made a decision to become a real estate broker, our technology was basically obsolete. We had to take, 6 months backwards, because the platform was made peer-to-peer with some real estate attorney intervention. But we figured that stuff out. 2018, we did high volume, but it was slow growth. But I think taking those steps backwards, and then we just launched in 2019. That, I think, was wonderful because we started adding more components of the business. And if you look at the revenue profile, that 2019 really stands out. And then we doubled revenue again in 2020. And even during COVID, that's something that's really, really, really awesome and humbling to see. And it goes back to the team, as Johnny was mentioning earlier. We love the team that we put together. Super smart people, extremely humble, and just so committed to the mission. But yeah, those are the 2 milestones for sure. When we got the billboards 3 in a row, and then 2019, I think, was our breakout year.
Nice. I do remember when you launched in Arizona and you put up the homie for Senate. Is that what that was? Man, those little signs were everywhere.
That's right. I remember that.
I don't know if the rumors are true, but didn't you guys get like a $200 fine or something for putting out signs when you weren't supposed to?
Are we allowed to talk about that, Johnny?
Yeah. Yeah, we did have to make some special deals with some politicians, but we There was actually a Supreme Court ruling that made it legal to do what we were doing. They have since amended the law in Arizona to never allow people to do anything like what we did again. So you know, I had to agree with the Attorney General of Arizona to never run for a political office as a company again. So, but I think we got our money's worth out of that one. So I don't think we'll repeat that anyhow.
You know, I think that those single wins are well worth it. You know, if they got to create a new law around your creative marketing, you did something right, in my opinion.
Yeah, we won an Addy Award for it, for the best
Oh, really? Wow.
outdoor marketing campaign or something like that. That was really awesome. Yeah, it was really cool to see that. And I think the earned media was like 400K, and I mean, it cost us, I don't know, $28,000 to execute, and we did it like in 20 days. So that was really fun. It was really fun.
That's awesome.
And that goes back to our team. You know, like Joe Grover heads up marketing. He's our chief marketing officer. He is a rock star. If there ever, you know, he is the definition of a rock star in business. And that was all led by him, and absolutely crushed it.
Awesome. So I want to dive in on the question of basically pushback you got. People that told you that this wasn't possible, you know, whatever the excuses are. I mean, I'd like to hear from you guys. What did they tell you? Because I mean, certainly you got some pushback from somebody. What were the doubts? You know, what did they tell you wasn't possible?
Oh man, there's a long list. I think from even raising capital, I mean, we probably pitched over 150 investors and probably got no's from 99% of them multiple times. So if you add those up, it's probably in the 300s. There's a couple of, at least for me personally, there's a couple of conversations or times that I've had with people, you know, some real estate brokers, and you know, 10 conversations where they tell you this isn't going to work. Many have tried, many have failed, but they all cite the same thing over and over and over, groupthink, if you will. And then another conversation was with a mortgage guy. I remember having breakfast with him, and he was pretty direct and blunt in saying that we would never do this. There's no way that we would be able to build a one-stop shop platform with mortgage and have a high attachment rate. And I think when a lot of people tell you no consistently, and they're really citing the same thing over and over, I mean, it's kind of up to you to be a contrarian and say, well, if everyone's steering this way, then this can actually work, right? Because they're so focused on the past. And those are two things, you know, obviously besides being told no a bunch of times from investors, you know, those are the things that I remember that people telling you, so many people telling you no for the same reason. And I just think you got to question that.
Yeah, the way that Mike just described that, I think defines him, you know, like defines Mike well. When everyone says no, there's no way it can be done. He's like, huh, so you're telling me it can be done? You know, like, you know,
so you're saying there's a chance.
That's what he heard from all of this, you know, and his optimism is awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree with all of that. But I think the really hard part, you know, is our competition. Like our competition are realtors, or they were, you know, like right now we're trying to hire as many as possible. But with all of us having, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 friends that are licensed agents, those are our friends. Those are the people we trust. And so there were groups of agents that would get together and purposely leave us bad reviews before we even really got started. Like, I mean, we had like, I don't know, 7 reviews that were like 5 stars. And then all of a sudden we got like 40 1 stars, all from realtors, you know? And it's like, are you kidding? And you look at these people and I'm like, oh, I have mutual friends with them. And then I've called a few of those friends. They're like, yeah, you know, my aunt, she's amazing. I love her. She's the best person ever. And I'm like, crap, this is going to be really hard, you know, because they're not bad people, but when change occurs or you feel threatened, you do stupid stuff. And there was a lot of backlash, and there still is. The more we grow, the more backlash that there is. I think from our standpoint, what we've grown and learned is that, you know, we're not anti-realtor. We're anti the regulations within this industry. And like the realtors actually have a terrible job. Like it's so competitive. Anybody can go and get a license quickly. And so it makes it really hard to know who's a good realtor and who's a bad realtor. So the good ones, really, they hate the industry. They hate the way it's set up too. And the fees, you cannot play in this industry without paying really high fees on the buy side. So there's some of those things that it's made it really difficult and challenging, and it still is difficult and challenging. But to me, the backlash from like the local community of agents, that to me has been one of my biggest challenges, just understanding it and working through it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that and dig in on that for a minute. I mean, there are a lot of people, like, we all have real estate agent friends, right? And we love them. So you guys standing in the position you're in, where that, I mean, effectively they're your competition, right? I mean, we all have a business objective that we've got to go out and do. And as we're building companies, we're often disrupting someone else's life, right? Whether it's a company itself or their individual people, in a way, I mean, I don't know how else to say this, it's probably wrong, but in a way, like, because you're building something that's winning, someone else is losing in a way, right? I'm not a big believer in, like, zero-sum games and that sort of thing. But the reality is that markets change, and as founders, we change markets. So as you get these, what did you feel? Like, what do you feel as you get this feedback and you have these people push against you and they do things that are probably against their nature? Like, I mean, what's it feel to have that burden on your shoulders?
I'm happy to chime in first on this, Mike. I think there's a counterbalance to it. And the counterbalance is the savings that our clients get. Like, we've had so many clients that say, I saved $27,000. And they're like, I've never had that amount of money in my bank ever. And what some of our clients have done with that money is life-changing also. And it's been inspiring. And on the flip side, like, we are realtors. We're hiring agents left and right. And so, the old model, the traditional agent is a competitor, but when we hire a traditional agent to come over, I've had so many of our current agents say, yeah, Johnny, I hated you. I hated Mike, I hated Homie. You guys drove me nuts. But now that they're on board, they're like, wow, I don't have to pressure people to buy a more expensive home because my commission is tied to it. I had another agent say, yeah, like, I don't have to push them to buy a home so that I can pay my car payment. Like, Mike shared that most agents do 3 to 4 deals a year. So one deal, if they don't get one deal and that deal goes to Homie, it is like life ruining, and so you have to push your friends and family to buy and sell homes that they might not want. And that's a terrible position. And it's so competitive. Again, we all have multiple friends and family. So if as the non-realtor, you're like, well, which friend should I go with? And then you pick one, and then you upset all the rest. And it's so hard. And again, if you do 3 to 4 deals a year and your friend chooses your cousin, who's the other realtor, or some guy in your church, and it's like, do they not know that I'm a realtor? I could have helped them. And when 15, 20 grand is on the line, it's so emotional. And it's not the way business should be run. So the way we see it is, yes, traditional realtors are our competition, but in a way, we're changing the industry to make it better for realtors. We're making it better for them and far better for consumers. So that's how I've been able to deal with the backlash from the agents that say, like, I hate Homie, they're terrible, like, they don't do this, they don't do that, whatever they want to make up to try to put us down.
Yeah, the comments I'll add is, and I want to emphasize, I think what Johnny said is focusing on the consumer and the amazing experiences that they're having and the amazing life-changing amounts of savings. Like, man, if you have time, look at the testimonial videos, and I promise you some of them make you cry. I'm a crybaby just as a byproduct, so I'm a mush, but there are some very, very inspiring stories. Your average American has $457 in their bank account, in their savings account. 457. If you have a car accident, people's deductibles are $1,000. You can't even cover that, right? That's pretty saddening. So again, what the people do with this money is just inspiring. And as the one thing is, like, I used to look at social media at all the the backlash, I just stopped looking at that. And all of a sudden my perspective was so much different. When I stopped looking at that though, was when our customers had our backs, is when we no longer had to chime in. It was them doing it for us. And that there was two things where I remember feeling like, man, homie's going to make it. We're going to do this. And that was one of them, right? Because I had read about that with Airbnb and the communities, with Uber and Lyft, all these sort of social movements that were happening. I was like, wow, this is starting to happen for us. And then the other thing is, and I remember a guy wearing a homie t-shirt that I didn't know at my local Smith's. And I remember going up to him, trying to hug them. And the guy was like, whoa, what are you doing? And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm like, how did you get that t-shirt? And he said, I'd use homie. Have you heard about it? And I'm like, I have, and it was such a really cool moment, right? Because, we give t-shirts to everyone, but when you didn't give it to them yourself, there's actually a customer that you don't know that's, 5 or 6 degrees removed from you. Those were really cool moments to remember, so.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that sounds like an emotional tipping point, and I feel like, at least from my experience, most founders will experience that at some point. I mean, it's not like it all gets easy or something, right? But there's a point where, what you're building has been validated by someone that's not just you. And, it makes a difference, right, in the way that you approach the business. So I just want to ask you guys one more question, and I want to get your kind of closing thoughts. So, Johnny, I've heard you, I've seen you be quite vocal about founder mental health, right? And how to take care of yourselves as founders. Mike, I'm sure that you're aligned with this. I just haven't heard you or seen your posts on it. But I mean, obviously, building a company and getting it off the ground is a big burden. There's a lot that goes into a lot of stress that is carried on our shoulders, regardless of what kind of company you're building and industry and anything else, right? It's an incredibly difficult experience. So in looking at that, I mean, what would you say you've learned the most about how to manage the emotional side of building a business in general? If you're going to, give a 2-minute blurb to a founder that's either in the middle of it or thinking about getting into it and being prepared for it, what would you want them to know?
Mike, you have thoughts?
I'll let you go first, and then I'll chime in.
I think for me personally, I know that storytelling was probably the biggest challenge I had. Like the stories I was telling myself in my head that just weren't true. And I think anybody who's starting a company, like, you're going to fail. Like you absolutely will fail, but that's not it. Like if you keep going, and don't just stop whenever you fail, like you can make things better. You can make improvements, and failure is part of the process. But when you fail, if you tell yourself in your head, I'm a failure, or I'm a terrible leader, I'm a terrible CEO, I'm a terrible co-founder. Like whenever you start telling yourself those stories, that's when it's really dangerous. And the same is true if you're having success right away. I am awesome. I'm the best CEO. I'm this and that. Like you're still storytelling. It's just in a different way. And I think that's where if you can focus on humility and recognize, like, look, business could be up and down. I am not my business. That's my profession. That's my job, but that's not who I am. And I'm not tied to the number of zeros in my bank account, because as everybody knows, a business is a roller coaster. Startup is a really wild roller coaster, So when you're telling yourself those stories, like, it's really dangerous. So I think just keeping yourself in check. This is the mental fitness thing that I've been really focused on, like just checking yourself. That's one of our values is check yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, and you really can. You can wreck yourself by getting prideful or getting super in. Pride's just insecurity, but on the other side is the denigrating insecurity. Like, oh, I suck. I'm a failure. Compare yourself. Like, I haven't raised money like that other company. We started at the same time. Like, or they're at that much revenue. Well, we started at the same time. Like, or they started after us and they're doing this. Like, you can go into comparison, and that's storytelling. It's all bull crap. And that's what I think people have to really pay attention to, is just what the stories you tell yourself.
Love it.
Yeah, I think embedded in that is the mind is super powerful, right? And it could be used for wonderful things. It could also hurt you, right? Especially if you start putting yourself down and going through these cycles of storytelling and again the opposite, where then you become this cocky SOB. Like Johnny and I talk about this often. It's like, I don't know if it's America or entrepreneurs, but there's this huge fascination with like the one CEO slash founder. Name one company that's been successful with one person. You can't. The history of time, right? So for me, it's you don't do it alone, right? You have collaboration, and over my 15 years of professional career, I've assembled these 13 C's of entrepreneurship, and one of them is collaboration, right? And that also means at home, right? My wife, for me, is as much a co-founder as I am for this business, because when I come home, she helps me so in so many ways, and one of the ways is just like to get out of myself and look at a different perspective, or soundboard off of an idea and make sure that I'm not the one that's crazy and in my head thinking that I'm 100% right. But it all goes back to collaboration and making sure that you communicate with your founders, with your team, and listen, right? A company is a collection of human beings behind a mission, right? Like at its most raw and most sensible form, it's a collection of people, right? If you bring those people on, it's because you saw something in them, right, that would help your business succeed. And you got to collaborate, right? Doesn't mean you're going to agree with every single little thing, but if you collaborate together and talk to things and communicate, that weight, that burden, that's probably mostly in your head, anyways. You don't have to fight it alone, and that's one of the biggest things that I've learned.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great insights, guys. I love it. Well, we're about out of time. I just want to give you guys each a couple of minutes. If you're talking to our audience here, they're either in the trenches or they're thinking about it. And, having just gone through it or gone through it a couple of times, what's something that you would tell them to help them make it through this stage, right? And specifically through this stage, like this early stage stuff, pre-funding, trying to make the whole thing happen. You got an idea on the back of the napkin, you're trying to grind it out. What would you want them to know to increase their chance of success?
You want to have the closing thought, Mike?
I think we should both have a closing thought, because I think it's going to be two different perspectives, which I think are super valuable.
I have a closing thought from Mike. He's like, all these VC trips we've been on, he's always said like, yeah, this industry's huge. All these VC pitches, yes, no one's ever done this before. And yes, we're out of Utah. We're not a San Francisco company. But he would say, why not us? Why not us? And if you look at, I think that goes back to the storytelling. Like you could tell yourself like, oh, I'm not as smart as those guys, or I didn't have the successes they've had previously, or you can get into that bullcrap storytelling again and go into fear and sit still or get paralyzed and fail and never move forward again. Or you can be like my co-founder here, Mike Hustle Peregrina, who says like, why not us? Why not? Like, none of us are better than any other human being. None of us are less than. We all have opportunity to create. So that stuck with me. That message from Mike has stuck with me for a long time.
Cool.
I don't know if I can add anything to that. I to kind of going deeper on that piece is I've always been fascinated with human potential. I think that that's God's gift to us, and what we do with that potential, it's what we give back to the world. And I'm always fascinated. There's people landing rocket ships with precision. There's a vaccine in record time, is going to be in the hands of millions of people. And I just think when people come together for the right reasons and maximize that potential, man, beautiful things beautiful things can happen. And why not you, right?
I love that attitude, guys. That is fantastic. We all put our pants on one leg at a time, right? At least most of us, I'm sure.
I don't wear pants.
Not anymore.
Hey, you don't have to anymore.
Don't stand up.
You can't see.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for coming in, spending time with us. Loved hearing your story and sharing your insights on what it means to be a founder in this day and age. I know a lot of, young people, old people, whatever, male, female, everybody, right, would love to be able to get themselves to the position that you're at with Homey. And I think that through an effort together, right, we can help give some guidance and some insights that can help them have an increased likelihood of making it. So thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for putting these together for everybody to learn a little bit something from so many different founders. So thanks for your efforts, Jesse.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, guys. All right.